hate the cold.
Oh, I know. Me too.
I want a hot tub. Like,
I know.
I'm here for the hot tub. Hey everyone, I'm Morgan, co-founder of Primal Kitchen and host of the Primal Kitchen podcast. Today, I'm chatting with longtime friend and paleo entrepreneur Danielle Walker. Danielle is a 4 times New York Times bestselling cookbook author, health and wellness advocate, and self-trained chef. After being diagnosed with an autoimmune disease at age 22 and suffering for many years, Danielle worked her way back to health through dietary and lifestyle changes. For over a decade, she's been whipping up delicious grain-free and gluten-free recipes for all types of occasions, from comfort food to holiday favorites and kids' meals. Today, we're going to talk through her story and journey, along with discussing her latest book, Healthy in a Hurry. Before we get started, a brief reminder that any and all opinions and views shared by hosts and guests on this podcast are the speaker's own and do not represent the view of Primal Kitchen or its affiliates or parent company. Man, that was a mouthful. Hello, how are you?
It's always so awkward to sit and listen to somebody read your bio, isn't it?
I know, like, it is so uncomfortable. Yeah. Yeah. Or like,
I am good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I feel like whenever I'm in work setting too, or like a meeting and there's like 20 people and they don't know you and they're like, okay, give us a little bio. I always like start sweating. I'm like, it's so uncomfortable to talk about yourself. And
it is so uncomfortable to talk about yourself.
I'm with you. But come on, you should be used to it by now. You're like, you've been doing this for decades.
I have, but I feel like, well, so first of all, my favorite is when you do a podcast and they're like, I'm going to record your intro after. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Because it's just so awkward. And then, I kind of like, people ask what I do. And I'm like, I'm a writer. Just kind of like, blanket, a blanket level.
I mean,
I am a writer.
Yeah.
I mean, if they dig, I'll start saying what I do, but it's so weird to talk about myself.
Yeah. I find that for women too, it's actually really uncomfortable for me when people ask me like, oh, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, to say like, oh, I run this company. But then it's like, I'm even uncomfortable being like, I run this company. Like, I'm just like, I work for this company, Primal Kitchen. And then I'm like, God, like men just own this shit. Like, what are we doing?
It's so true. It's so true. I know. I was listening to one of my good friends' book the other day. And she, maybe you've read it, but her name's Jamie Kern Lima. And she said that there's like a whole chapter actually about it, about how she, women like are too nervous to say their accomplishments, but men are like, they'll talk about their salary figures and what positions they've, like the ladders that they've climbed and all this. And it's very interesting. I was telling my husband that the other day. I was like, I need to learn to like be proud of what I've done. I've accomplished a lot and I've worked my butt off, and I need to like gain that confidence, because I think we always worry that it's going to sound like braggadocious and
I know.
And so, but yes, but you should. I mean, my gosh, is that a word?
It is now. Definitely. I love it.
I feel like it's a word, but I don't know.
No.
Anyways,
I'm
like, you should be shouting what you have done from the rooftops because it's incredible. And the company that you have built is amazing. I mean, I still remember way, way back. It's like, there's a few of us who remember the early days,
Yeah, I know there are.
Yeah.
How things have changed, it seems like, doesn't it? It just feels like, it does. It was like very much felt like the start of a movement, right? I mean, now the movement is, I don't know, matured, and all for good reasons, but
absolutely.
It's crazy. Awesome. So tell everyone listening, I feel like everyone in our community, like they have to know you, but I would imagine there's a few who don't. So give us your your health journey real quick.
Yeah. Well, so back way back when we were all babies and first started out in this world, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, ulcerative colitis. I've written extensively about it on my blog, but also in a book called Food Saved Me. So if you're, one of the 50 million Americans who've been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, you can go and read kind of my journey so you can feel a little bit less alone. But I was 22 and spent my first 5 years of marriage just really, really sick, like debilitating symptoms, taking medical leave from my job, tons of different medications, hospital visits, ER visits, kind of the whole works. And just nothing was really working. The medications were making me feel worse. They would maybe minimize some of the symptoms of the actual disease, but then cause this whole slew of other side effects. And I started just looking into food. At that time, I mean, gosh, it's been so many years now that I've learned so much along the way. And I actually kind of walk the reader through all of that in Food Saved Me, because when I first came across that food could help, I mean, we're talking 2009. And I just was searching online. Like none of my doctors talked to me about diet or food or even really lifestyle. I mean, we've learned so much about autoimmune now and stress and, so much else, environmental triggers, all these things, but nobody was really talking to me about that back then. And so I just started doing my own research and I changed my diet drastically. I started on something called the specific carbohydrate diet or GAPS, and then kind of slowly made my way to more of a paleo lifestyle. There were a few things that were allowed, like legumes, some dairy on those other ones, that just wasn't fully getting me into remission. And when I started doing paleo was really kind of the first time that I noticed my symptoms just drastically decrease, like almost overnight with an elimination diet. And so that's kind of where I started. But I felt at that point, I mean, the blogs and the recipes and the cookbooks were dismal, few and far between, not great food photography, just looking at it, like it just made, especially as a young 20 something, just kind of felt like, oh gosh, this is not sustainable and this is not going to be enjoyable. And I am not going to be able to eat livers and onions for every meal. I mean, it was like, that's all I remember is just these very brown photos of food, and, baked goods that just kind of looked like they were greasy and sunken in. And I was like, oh, okay, like I can do this for a little while, but I don't think this is going to be something I can do for lifetime. And it quickly became apparent that if I didn't eat that way, that symptoms came, roaring back up. So I started just kind of creating my own recipes in my kitchen. And, while my oldest, who is 12 now, was a newborn, and when he was napping, I would get into the kitchen and try to tinker with an old recipe from, my family, or one of those grain-free recipes that I found online that I was like, ooh, this isn't great. And so I would kind of try to add different ingredients and substitute out different ingredients. So I started the blog Against All Grain in 2009. And that's kind of my history. A lot has happened since then.
Yeah, I love it. So then you start this blog in this 2009.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, crazy. Okay.
Yeah, I know, right? It's been a really long time. I will say I started it. Yeah, I started in 2009.
Blogging then, really. I mean, there weren't even that many bloggers.
Yeah, no,
blogging's
not at all.
come and gone.
Yeah, I know. It's really sad. Yeah. I mean, people still look up recipes, but they don't read the blogs anymore. That's for sure. It's like all the stories that we used to write. Yeah. Yes. So I started it. I actually think I might have started it in 2008 and then let it kind of just sit and be stagnant for a little bit, especially after my son was born. But started a blog. Didn't really know what a blog was, but that's where it started. And I started kind of recreating, especially as I had my son, I started really wanting to recreate some of my pastimes. So like chocolate chip cookies and a bread to be able to use, and like French toast or paninis. And that's those recipes I started sharing on Facebook, and that's kind of what started to get some traction and attention to the blog. And then my first cookbook was published in 2013.
Okay.
Yeah, in 2013.
It's crazy.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. And for those listening, I can't believe Danielle hasn't been on the podcast yet. It's kind of ridiculous, but also I am a cookbook connoisseur. I read cookbooks as much as I read romance novels, which is quite a bit these days. I get a cookbook and I like to read it, the whole thing.
I do too. I do too.
I love
it.
Read it like a book, right?
Yeah.
But Danielle's cookbooks are on my counter. They are the tried and true, really only cookbooks we cook out of. I'm kind of in Pinterest looking for recipes, or I'm just finding something out of your cookbooks. The holidays, I use your, celebrations?
Celebrations.
I use your celebrations for Thanksgiving. And some the sheet pan fajitas I was telling you about. We make those once a week now. They're so easy to clean up. Everything. Oh, that cauliflower. It's riced cauliflower chicken casserole. I can't remember what it's called.
With the broccoli and the cashew sauce.
With the broccoli and the cashew sauce. That's a staple in our house too. Yeah. It's great. Leftover with some hot sauce. Everything's just you can tell, at least me as a consumer of recipe content, when someone in the blogosphere, influencer, cookbook creator space creates a cookbook and actually tests their recipes. And when someone just throws a recipe out and you're like, what is this?
True. I know.
That was a waste of my time and money. And could you just try this before you publish it? And your stuff is always, give me the process. How intricate is this?
It's pretty intricate, and so I'm very type A, and I'm definitely a perfectionist, which probably has contributed to my autoimmune symptoms.
Yeah.
But, I can't let anything get out there without it being perfect. And so, I mean, it's intricate. My first book, I tested, photograph styled all of the recipes myself, but then I just had this idea because I already had a really engaged community. And, when you write a blog post, you can get almost immediate gratification or criticism, right? So it's like if you have a typo in the recipe, or if something overcooks with the time that you put, or whatever it is, you forgot an ingredient, you hear from people almost immediately. And so with my first cookbook, I was kind of nervous because I was like, I'm spending time, creating 165 recipes. They're going in a book that's getting published. And I had never been a published author before. And I was like, if something's wrong, I cannot go and fix this until we sell through whatever, the copies are. So I reached out to my community. And so I think one of the things that makes the recipes really sound is that they are actually tested by home cooks that want to use those recipes. And then they're giving me feedback. So, every single recipe goes through a trial in my own kitchen 3 or so times, depending on if it's a baked good, which can take like upwards of 12 to 20 times. Okay. And then goes through recipe testing. And then now I don't photograph them myself anymore. So they actually now go through a process again when they get photographed of, getting feedback from the food stylist who's making them, and just making sure that all of the instructions are super clear. I'll never forget, I saw Ina Garten speak at a Cherry Bomb conference. Like I spoke and then she came on after me, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever, even though we barely rubbed elbows. But I was like, I'm speaking at the same conference as somebody who I really look up to. And she talked about her process. And this is something that I think is amazing. And it's why her recipes are so sound. But she writes her recipes and then she sits across the counter from her kitchen assistant and watches in silence as that person makes the recipes, which I'm like, oh my gosh, I would be like just sweating and so nervous. But it's so she can see, the method that she wrote. If she says, stack the basil leaves and roll them up and slice them. Like, is she going to slice them lengthwise? Is she going to slice them horizontally? What, thickness? And so just to be able to watch and see, okay, is my instructions, is it computing for the person who's making it, and kind of like, what is their first instinct to do when they read that? So I really love and value the feedback from my recipe testers, because I think it makes it sound, and I think it makes it, be able to be recreated in your own kitchen. But yeah, the world of recipe creation is kind of a funny one, because anybody, as we know now with social media and blogs, and, anybody can create recipes and put them out there. You don't have to have any sort of credibility, and you can rip other people's recipes off. You can type something up and put it out without having fully gone through testing. And I agree. I mean, I think it's pretty apparent when that, like that it hasn't been tested a bunch, and also that it's something that's being used in my own kitchens. I mean, I cook from my recipes. They're what we use all the time too. So
do you cook like every night at home?
No. I, it's funny. I wish, and I look forward to the day when I can be a little more creative. I have 3 kids. My younger 2 right now are in that season where they are like little birds. They'll just open their mouths up and try pretty much anything that I ask them to. And they'll eat salmon, and they'll eat asparagus, and they'll eat everything. My older one, who is 12 now, has like 3 or 4 dinners that it's, that's what he wants, and everything else he's usually pretty reticent to, pretty picky. So I kind of recycle the same recipes like most people do. Yeah. And then when I'm testing a book, I get to have a little fun and create a bunch of new stuff. But no, I would say we cook maybe like 3 nights a week. I do a couple freezer things that I pull out, and we definitely take advantage of takeout. I mean, the busier we get, the harder it is. So I'm trying to kind of turn my focus in that way of creating recipes to help people who are like me, because when I wrote my first book, I had a toddler, and that was it, and like a very part-time side job type of a thing. And now I'm, full-time running a company with 3 kids, and like, okay, this is what a lot of, the majority of my readers are probably dealing with is very busy schedules and wanting to feed their family healthy meals and not having all the time in the world to cook. So.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love anything that I can eat leftovers. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I make like 2 or 3 things, and then I'm like, oh, we have stuff in here. We can just eat. This is great.
Totally.
Like, there's nothing better.
Yeah. Us too. And I'm, like I can do leftovers to a certain extent. I do like to kind of what I call them morphed meals. Like I like to make something, but then kind of turn it into something else. Okay. Different.
Yeah.
If we eat,
you're one of those.
Yeah, if we just eat the exact same thing, I think my kids get sick of it. I mean, even if it's as simple as like making shredded taco meat, I have like a 5-ingredient, shredded chicken taco meat, and we have bowls the first night, but then I do nachos or something for them, or we put it into enchiladas and have a different sauce. Even if it's like a simple little tweaks, that it's just not the exact same thing.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. I need to get better about that. What's your favorite cookbook of yours?
Oh gosh. So I would say Healthy in a Hurry is my best cookbook, I think, that I've put out. I think that just happens as you have many, many years of developing recipes. And so you just become better at your craft. But the one that I cook the most from, or that I love, let's not cook the most from, the one I love the most, has a very special place in my heart, is Celebrations. I just, I think anybody who's diagnosed with an autoimmune disease or has food allergies, or a child that is told they have celiac, or, a nut allergy or whatever, you go through this mourning process. And typically the things that you are worried about for forgetting or not being able to celebrate are all of those special occasions throughout the year. And those are the ones that sting the most, of like, oh, well, I can't have, my grandma's cinnamon rolls on Christmas morning anymore. Yeah. I can't host a Thanksgiving and have like all my family who eats normal come over because they're not going to want to eat my food. Those little things, it's just like, those are the things. Or birthday cake. I'm never going to be able to like have an actual real good birthday cake again. So that's what Celebrations is filled with. And so I think that's my favorite, only because it feels like all of the things, the nostalgic pastimes, the things that I loved are back in my life. Yeah. And it's like a gift that I felt like I was able to give out to the world.
Yeah. This is kind of veering off track, but I feel like you kind of downplayed how severe your autoimmune disease was severe. I mean, fair enough, right? Like, what do you think? You've been dealing with this. I feel like you've gotten really good. I mean, this is just me, but it seems like you've gotten good at managing it, but you have had some relapses.
Yeah.
I want to know, what are the triggers and what are like the biggest tips, maybe aside from just the typical like paleo and grain free, like what's the biggest, I don't know, triggers and tips?
Yeah, it's definitely not been a perfect journey. I get really raw and honest in that Food Saved Me book. And funny enough, when I wrote the book, I had been in more or less of remission, essentially not hospitalized, not on any of the severe medications for almost a decade. And so I kind of set out to write it like I had it all figured out. And then I had a really severe flare up and kind of a relapse, and was in the hospital for a few weeks. And it really kind of made me sit and reevaluate, and also try to kind of re-put together the puzzle pieces of all that I had learned in the last decade. And I think the biggest thing that came from it was that food is a huge puzzle piece in kind of the whole puzzle of autoimmune disease. But no matter how well I was eating and how perfectly I was adhering to a paleo diet or grain-free or whatnot, if I had too much stress in my life, then it was almost like kind of devoid. So in 2019, I learned that I have to really take care of myself, and I have to really kind of pull back when I'm starting to notice that I'm doing too much. So just that year, for instance, I did 3 book tours, I think, over the course of a year. We sold our house and moved into a new one. I had a baby. No, I didn't have a baby, but I think she was like a year and a half when I started to kind of notice symptoms. There was just a whole lot that happened. Yeah. And not even just like physical stress, but, emotional stress, or if we've got trauma in our lives that we haven't dealt with, there's a lot that can really kind of cause autoimmune symptoms to flare up. But my biggest one I've just learned is stress. So it's learning to, say no to things when I need to, and learning to prioritize sleep and rest, and having seasons, if I know I'm going to be busy, that I need to set time aside afterwards to really make sure that my body has time to recover. And just also like working on emotional. I mean, I went back to therapy to work through, we have had some really serious losses in our life since we got married. And so to be able to actually work through some of that wasn't fully kind of worked through, and all of it can really build up. So yeah, it feels like there's multifaceted things that you have to really pay attention to with autoimmune. Yeah. But yeah, it's serious. And in 2019, and I've talked a little bit about this, actually a lot about this, but for a decade, I felt like if I needed to use a Western medication, that I was failing in a way, because I was so young in this like new movement, and there was so much around me of, like medicine's evil and we can only do natural ways. And so I felt a lot of guilt and shame if I needed to utilize that. And that was something that I really had to work through, because in the hospital in 2019, I started a medication that honestly, with that and food, helped to save my life and really give me back the quality of life, especially with young kids. And it's been essential right now in this season of my life. And so, even if it's food and lifestyle and a medication, whatever can help you be, present for your kids and for your life and for your job and all of that. So, that's a lot. I'm like, that's like a 15-year journey all packed into a 10-minute segment. But
I have similar feelings. I feel like when you start out in this kind of movement, it can be a bit like, I don't know, religious or something. I don't know what the word is, right? Like you're just like, so everyone starts out like super strict, I feel like. And then you kind of are like, oh, I'm actually fine with a little bit of dairy, or like, oh, that was my journey. But I had the same thing. I'm like a terrible migraine sufferer. And I used to just like lay in bed for 36 hours and like ice my head, and I wouldn't even take like, Tylenol or Motrin or anything. And now I'm like, just give me the sumatriptan. Like, I know I need it at the start of the headache. Like, I'm not going to feel guilty about this because I don't want to be like laid up in bed for 3 days. Like, and it's not, I think it is nice.
I think there's so much that we can't control, right? So it's like our diet, we can control. I mean, to a certain extent, we can control stress, but I feel like I learned so much. I listened to like Dr. Hyman's podcast, and like I have a functional medicine practitioner. There's so much around us, like environmental toxins. And then again, like trauma or loss, like things that we can't avoid and can't, I always say to my husband, I'm like, if I ate paleo and was able to like sit on my floor and just meditate for like 24 hours a day, I'd probably be fine with no medications and in full remission. But I have 3 children and my like level of stress is always there. So I think there's tools. I mean, if you know that a sumatriptan is going to help you be able to be there for your children during the day and not in bed for 2 days, then, I'm like, this is what it is at this point. So,
I agree. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Were there any things like, I don't know, supplements or anything like that was particularly helpful along the way, or any like new things that are coming out? I feel like autoimmunity, I don't know, it seems like it's definitely like trending. Like I have a friend who is in Chicago and she sees just like a regular doctor, and her doctor was like, oh, you have Hashimoto's, like you need to go gluten-free. Like this is a known thing now, right? Whereas like 10 years ago, there's no way just like a regular practitioner ever would have suggested that.
No, definitely not. I mean, celiac, 10 years even ago, celiac was still, I feel like, somewhat new and the testing wasn't great. And then now I think they're realizing that so many people are non-celiac, gluten sensitive. But yeah, I mean, gluten and dairy, I think I'm 100% a believer in food as medicine, but also as a preventative measure. And even with the medication that I started taking, they were like, you'll be in remission after 6 infusions. And I was at like 12 and I still was having symptoms. And I kind of, because I was just severely malnourished and just out of the hospital and had like serious PTSD. I didn't eat whatever I wanted, but I mean, I was eating like, I'm normally grain free. I was eating like 8 pieces of Udi's gluten-free toast a day because that was all that I wanted. I was so severely nutritionally depleted and I didn't want to drink bone broth. Like the smell of it made me feel sick. But I realized that I needed to get back to what I knew in terms of foods that were good for the gut and for digestion and also for inflammation. And as soon as I did that and kind of reverted back to more of like a clean paleo, Whole30, but there's still some things in Whole30 that actually can bother people with autoimmune, especially with ulcerative colitis, like raw vegetables, for instance, or too many starchy vegetables. So once I really reverted back to that was when I saw like my recovery coming. And I think they worked hand in hand, honestly. I always say that I'm like, if we're eating a super inflammatory diet, but we're taking like anti-inflammatory medications, it's almost like they're fighting against each other and kind of canceling each other out. So in my opinion, if we can eat well to decrease inflammation and allow our, microbiome and our gut to be able to start to heal, then those medications could be more effective, right? So I'm not an and/or, I'm kind of a, how can we make these things work together type of a person.
Yeah. And since your last flare-up, have you been like in remission and been feeling fine?
I have. Yeah. I've been in full remission, thankfully, which is literally like the first time in over a decade that I've had 3 years where I haven't had to think a single thought about having a flare up or having any symptoms. I am wanting to get to the place where I can start working with my doctor again. Like when you talk about supplements, I mean, there's so much, like you said, there's just so many new things that are constantly, I feel like, coming out. And I'm still hopeful, especially for Crohn's and colitis, that there will be some sort of a cure at some point. And so, I mean, but yes, I've been in full remission, but I'm really wanting to get to a place where I can really work on figuring out kind of the internal, and working with that functional medicine of like, why is this happening? Obviously I know stress and I know things like that, but is there something that we can start working on to really get me into a better place where maybe I will be able to just rely on diet and lifestyle again?
Yeah. Are you doing any of this like infrared sauna or I don't know, is there any like fun new health trends that you're seeing that you like? Or
I mean, I've tried them all. I have infrared sauna. I don't know. I just don't fully know if everything works. I mean, I take supplements, I do it all, but I don't know. I know my husband is like very into, he'll be 40 in December, and he says that his midlife crisis is like going on a health like craze. So into cold. I know. I was like, hey, better than like buying a convertible and
totally. Sleeping with someone
cold in the plunges. Yeah, right.
Better than having an affair and buying a convertible. Yeah, sounds great, honey.
Yes.
Yeah. Where do I buy the infrared sauna? I'm here for it.
Sign me up. Yeah. But yeah, he's into the cold plunges. He's into like the breathing techniques, which I do some of that. I try to do some of that as well. But again, I'm a mom of 3. Like every time I try something, it's really hard to stick with it.
Yeah.
When we talk about like therapy, I would say it's not super trendy, but I started EMDR therapy, which is like,
microdosing. That's like microdosing, right? Or what is that?
It's
EMDR.
Not
what
quite
is
like
EMDR?
that, but it's close. It's like a neuro pathway remapping, essentially. So like, I forget what it stands for, but it's you revisit some of your most difficult moments.
Okay, so this is not something you take. This is not something you take. This is
no. Okay. It's a therapy. It's a therapy practice. But especially for those of us that have had like medical trauma, I think really any trauma, but it's like revisiting your past traumatic experiences and then essentially like retraining the neural pathways in your brain to think of it's like thinking of happy thoughts. It's like sprinkling pixie dust and thinking of happy thoughts when you have really bad memories, so that smells and certain places, things like won't trigger your body to kind of get back into that like traumatic state.
Interesting.
It's really interesting. I've only done a few sessions, and I will say it's one of the hardest things that I've ever done, and I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But I do feel like it's in there with some of those wellness trends. I mean, it's not drinking celery juice, but it's a little more intense, but there's a lot of actual scientific evidence that it can really help.
Interesting.
But I have the infrared sauna. I have the blanket. I'm like, well, it makes me sweat. I don't know if it does what it's exactly supposed to do, but cold showers I've done. I don't know. I'm bad at it. I
hate the cold. My husband wants the cold. He's like a polar bear. I feel like men are better at this cold thing than we are. I don't know.
I know, me too. Yeah, my husband was just looking the other day at like when we could put outside that looks like a big old trough, but
that's what Adam wants. Yeah, I know. I'm like, you have at it. There's like no part of me that wants to, I want a hot tub. Like, I'm here for the hot tub. I was talking to Ben Greenfield like a month ago or something ago, and he's telling me all the benefits of like, the sauna and the infrared sauna. And I'm like, but what about the hot tub? Like, can't the hot tub just be like, why couldn't we just make that the thing? Because that would be just so enjoyable. But anyway, no, I think
there's a lot I would like to explore. I just, again, I'm like, maybe when I have a little more time, because
and in the end of the day, it's like,
practice.
Do you just need do we need another thing to add to the routine of the list of things that I hear you.
I mean, at the end of the day, when my kids are in bed, I want to sit on the couch and watch the Great British Bake Off and be happy.
Is that what you're watching these days? What's the favorite shows you're watching these days?
Yeah, we watch that a lot because it's just so feel good and happy. And I'm like, there's enough in this world. And then again, like on that stress level, I'm like, there's so many shows I want to watch, but there's just, I don't always have the capacity to get into like a dark place or a stressful place.
Oh no, I can't go there. I can't go there. That's why I have to read romance novels because they all end happy. Like you just know you're going to end happy, and then I'm fine with that. Yeah, I agree.
I mean that Ted Lasso. Loved Acapulco on Apple Plus.
I didn't
one of those
that.
Very underrated shows that I feel like nobody's talking about. But again, it's happy. I just kind of need some happy.
Did you watch Bridgerton?
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Okay. Yeah.
I did.
Emily in Paris. Did you watch Emily in Paris? Yeah. Okay. Those are the only shows I've watched in the last 3 years. Emily in Paris, Bridgerton, and Ted Lasso. Other than that, I'm I'm out.
Yeah. There's so many. They're all on our list, but maybe one day. But again, it's like I go to bed super early and we talk about health trends. I mean, sleep, I've noticed with my autoimmune is very important, and I can see like day-to-day symptoms decrease if I get a good chunk of sleep. And thankfully I have a partner who is willing to get up with the kids because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do it. But, I'm in bed by 9:15. So by the time my kids go to bed, I go to bed now before my 12-year-old goes to bed. That's where I'm at in life.
Yeah. What time do you wake up? How many hours are you clocking here? What time are you waking up?
I probably fall asleep by 9:45 or 10, and I wake up around 6:30 or 7. So I'm getting a lot.
Yeah, that's
enough.
Great.
Yeah, there's weekends more, which is great.
Yeah.
But I just don't really even have that much time to watch TV.
No, I don't either.
Sit down on the couch after the kids go to bed, and one of them will come out at least 3 times, and so there's not a whole lot of time to watch TV.
How old is your youngest? Remind me.
5.
5. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a turning point, though. Even just that, right? I mean,
it's huge.
Our oldest is 4, so it's like,
I mean, 3 is one of my favorite ages, actually. But,
3. 2 to 3 is so brutal.
Oh, it's brutal.
It's amazing. They're hilarious, but it's just my God. Yeah.
Yeah. 5.
3.
She'll actually be 6 in June. And she's almost growing up. It's like she's going a little too fast.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Time goes quick.
I love it. Okay. Who's inspiring you these days? Like reading or podcasts or anything like that? Who's inspiring you?
I already mentioned her. My friend Jamie. She's a killer businesswoman. And I feel like she challenges me to I get frozen when there's so much in my work and my business that I really want to accomplish. And I kind of get frozen if I don't know how to do it right away. And she really encourages me to just go and just, if you fail, fine, but chase after it. So
Jamie, what's her name? Does she work with people?
She does not work with people, but she wrote a book and she is on Instagram, but not she doesn't coach people.
Kern Lima?
Yes.
Oh, I see it. Jamie Kern Lima. Got it. I see her now. Cool. Okay. I love it.
She sold a cosmetics company to L'Oreal. And she's an amazing businesswoman.
Yeah.
So
for $1.2 billion, that's quite an exit there.
Yeah. I'm like, that's all public. But she's public.
I just Googled her and that's just on her website, on the front page of her website. I've never heard of her before until today, but she sounds great.
Yeah. I only met her a year ago, and she's just we've become friends, and she's just super encouraging to women founders, especially, which I love. There's just no competitive nature to her, and she built her company from her living room floor, and every no came her way, and so it's just been encouraging to be like, okay, you know what, I can try something, and if I fail, fine, and just because I've never put out, whatever, a packaged product before or done a TV show before, I can knock on doors and make some calls. So it's worth a shot.
I love it. And you launched a spice company recently.
Well, I wouldn't call it a spice company, but
it's a spice company. Come on. See, you're downplaying it. You're doing that woman thing.
I am.
Okay, a spice line. You're right. Spice line.
I launched a seasoning blend line. It's called Healthy in a Hurry. They're used throughout the book, the cookbook. And you can make them yourself. But to be honest, I've been making my taco seasoning from Meals Made Simple for nearly a decade. And I have to make a huge jar of it every 3 weeks or so because we have, whether it's chicken tacos or beef tacos, they're on regular. It's one of the meals that my 12-year-old likes to have on vacation. So when I was writing that book, I was like, what else can I try to put out into the world that can make eating healthy in a hurry a little bit more accessible? And honestly, I use Primal Kitchen sauces throughout the book. I always give people recipes because there's some people that want to do it from scratch, but we used to have to do everything from scratch when I first started eating paleo, right? Like you had to make your own beef jerky. You had to make all of your own dressings, all of your own sauces because you couldn't buy anything that had good ingredients. So the seasonings were something I wanted to do for a long time, if not only for selfishly to never have to make my taco seasoning and my burnt broccoli seasoning again for myself. But yeah, I launched those in tandem with the cookbook last fall. And it's been a really fun venture. And I eventually want to like package all my baked goods. And
oh yeah,
I've got a lot that I want to do, but yeah.
I love it. Your fry seasoning is like delicious on broccoli.
Oh, is it?
I mean,
broccoli?
I love the
we always use the burnt broccoli.
I know, and I love that
good
too.
To know.
But the fry seasoning is really good on broccoli. My kids like love broccoli, and we've been doing that. But
that's great. I mean, we use it on roasted vegetables like crazy. The fries, but French fries, of course, obviously are delicious with it. And in any meat, it works really well on any meat too.
Yeah. And what are you guys doing what are you doing for breakfast and lunch over there these days?
At our house?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. My kids pretty much eat a turkey meat stick and like a chocolate protein muffin that I keep in the freezer for almost every meal, or Applegate breakfast sausages are on regular rotation. We eat like so many boxes.
Oh my God, the boxes! I'm like those maple ones. I'm like, every morning, the box is gone. I mean, every it's crazy.
Yep, we just keep every time I get an order of groceries, I get like 3 boxes because sometimes they sell out, especially the organic.
They're always out. The organic ones are really hard to find.
Super hard to find.
Whole Foods, I can get them. Like Sprouts doesn't even have them. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
But wait, what are these chocolate protein muffins? Can we go back here for a second?
Yes,
which book are these in?
They are in Eat What You Love, and they're the chocolate zucchini, but I put collagen into them.
Okay, great. I'm going to make those tonight.
Yeah. So I make like 3 dozen, and we just keep them in the freezer. And my kids eat them frozen. I don't know if other kids are weird like that.
My kids eat the sausage frozen. I'm sure they'll eat the muffins frozen. Literally. Perfect. My 2-year-old, I'm like, do you want me to cook that? He's like, oh no, this is great.
No, it's good.
Yeah. Okay. So the muffins frozen. I love it.
Yes. Yep. We do smoothies when we have time, but I mean, school mornings are busy these days. So I'm packing lunches and trying to get them something quick. So they're all at a place where they can grab what they want, which is key in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, a turkey meat stick and a muffin is typically breakfast. So
I love it.
Yeah. And then lunch, I mean, gosh, for them, it's different. I send a lot of leftovers with them in thermoses, which my 12-year-old is too cool for now. And he's like, Mom, you can't do that. But
smells weird. Everyone's looking at me at school. Yeah. Okay.
But my 2 younger two love it. So I do that a lot. For me, I mean, I always have stuff for salads, and that's kind of what I go to quickly after like a workout. And when I'm in the middle of the workday, cooking for a book, which we're doing right now, like I've actually got my test kitchen assistant is here, and we've already done 6 recipes today. So that's great for lunches because we're testing tons of stuff, and I just get a smorgasbord, and that's also set for dinner. So like we are good on that front.
Okay, I have a few like random last questions for you. What's the worst thing you've ever done for your own health? Oh, look at that face.
The worst thing I've ever done for my own health?
Yeah.
Well, running myself into the ground and not listening to myself. I knew. So that in 2019, and again, like I'm really honest and raw in the book about it. And I feel like as a reader, you're probably reading and you're like, oh no, why isn't she stopping? Why isn't she pulling back? Like she needs to take care of herself or she's going to get sick. And then like 3 more chapters later, I'm in the hospital. But that's the worst thing that I do for my health constantly is not listen to my own body. I push through. I think it's also a mom and a female thing where I put myself last. Do you need to take a quick break?
No, I'm
good. Okay.
He's just coming to say hi.
I know how that is. I'm like, I get it. Yeah, I think that's the worst thing that I've done for my health is that I put myself second. It's really hard as a mom and a business owner where you have employees that are depending on you. And then also spouse, to try to put yourself and your health first because you want to take care of everybody else. And it's always, for me, it's always like, oh, I've got a couple symptoms, but I'll take care of it when. Like when the kids are back in school, I can really buckle down and like do a AIP reset, or when we're done with this launch of this book, I can like take some time to rest. And so that's the worst thing is that I don't take action when I know I need to immediately. And I've learned that and have become better about that.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm
like, what else do people do that they say like they drink?
I mean, some people are like, I smoked when I was 18 I drank Slim Fast shakes for 6 years during college. Like I did that
those.
my junior year of college. Yeah.
definitely things I have done, but yeah, I would say that's.
I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah. Or like I was addicted to, I don't know, like Mark, when he was training, he was a runner in college and he ate like cinnamon raisin bread. He'd eat like 2 loaves of cinnamon raisin bread a day. He was
probably
like,
slathered
I was
in
on
butter
like,
too, right?
Yeah. He's like, I was on a loaf of cinnamon raisin bread. And then he'd go, I mean, he was running like, whatever. I don't know how many miles. He was running like 20 miles a day or 10 miles a day or something, like,
oh man.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that resulted in IBS, which led to the formation of Primal Kitchen. So, I mean, I think there was something good that came out of the journey, but definitely some interesting things. Okay, this is my last question for you. I ask everyone this, but what's something most people don't know about you?
I feel like I show so much of myself on Instagram, so there's not much that people don't know about me. The one that surprises people the most, well, I guess I was going to say I sing, but people don't normally know that.
I didn't know that.
The one that surprises people the most is that I'm an introvert. I think because of the nature of my job, when I say I'm an introvert, people are like, wait, what? Because I'm out talking to people publicly all the time and interacting with a large number of people, but I get very, very drained and have to kind of like come back and refuel. So I would say that's something people don't know about me.
Yeah, no, I didn't know either of those. Singing. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, tell everyone where they can find you, what you've got going on. If they're not already following you, but I feel like they are.
Find me on Instagram at Danielle Walker. My blog is daniellewalker.com. And I'm on Facebook and everywhere else. And then I have 6 books, I think. 5 cookbooks and a memoir. You can find those anywhere books are sold. But my most recent one that we were talking about is Healthy in a Hurry. And it's in Costco and Target and Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the places that you can find books. But it's 150 recipes to get healthy meals on the table quickly. For your family, mostly. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Danielle. It was great catching up with you. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. All right. We'll talk soon.